This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News, joined by promoter Eddie Hearn here in Saudi Arabia. Eddie, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Got in very late, well, last night or early this morning. I don't do very well on this time zone, to be honest with you.
It's only 2 hours ahead.
I know, but it's like I can't sleep till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I get up at 10, and I don't like getting up at 10. I don't know, it's like a mental thing. Whereas when I'm in America, I don't mind going to bed at 9 or 10, but I'll get up at 5 and then start my day. So take me a couple of days, but we got grand arrivals tonight, media workout tomorrow, press conference, weigh-in, and a cracking night on Saturday here in Riyadh.
Seems as though you're no longer the promoter for Dimitri Bivol, Eddie.
Frank Smith.
Frank Smith is, yeah.
Listen, he can take the credit, but when we win on Saturday, it'll be all down to me. I think Dimitri's rise has been incredible. I mean, look, a lot of that work and those foundations have been built by Andrei Rybinski, World of Boxing. We come on. How many fights? Frank, how many fights have we done with Dimitri Bivol? You should know this as his promoter. 10, 11 fights with him. And, you know, of course, culminating in the Canelo Alvarez fight. That was the turning point to push him into being a big star. Gilberto Ramirez in Abu Dhabi. And now this is what it comes down to. This is like the lifelong dream to become undisputed. It's a cracking fight. It's a 50-50 fight. And this is everything in boxing. I feel quite grateful to be sitting there watching this fight on Saturday night. Obviously as Dimitri's promoter, but more importantly as a fan. I think it's just a generational great fight.
If Dimitri wins, Eddie, you arguably have the pound-for-pound star, and you have somebody who crosses over into all different audiences. Obviously, the Mexican audience is familiar with him, British audience, across kind of his background as well. There's a lot which could be done with Dimitri Bivol if he's successful on Saturday night.
But again, it's like, I know that people hate, or they don't hate, they love the fact that we lose fights as a stable, but look at the fights that we're in. Like, and I want to see our guys chase greatness. Like, I want to see them create legacy in history. And when you roll the dice, make sure that you've got, you know, the big win on the other side of it. And that's a great example. Like, this is a very dangerous fight. It's a ticking time bomb against Artur Beterbiev. And you've just got to make sure that it ticks slow enough so that he don't get you. Do you know what I mean? And some fighters get in there and it goes like that. Dimitri's just got to make sure he does what he does so well, you know, and you lose count of the amount of times where a aggressive fighter fights someone with incredible feet and they just go, all you've got to do, you just got to walk them down, and when you get close, you just got to let your hands go. It don't work like that. You've got to be so much better than that. And that's why, you know, I remember when AJ fought Usyk, or like, you know, you just got to walk, just go in there and beat him up. It don't work like that. You're going to be getting pinged from everywhere, right? Hurt occasionally as well. But Dimitri's just got to bank round after round after round, and just hope, as I said, that you just slow that clock down so that you finish the fight. Listen, if you can get him out of there, fantastic. But if not, you get to 9, you get to 10, and you're 8-2 up. Do you know what I mean?
What would be going through your mind in that moment? Let's say,
fucking hold on. Do you know what I mean? Hold on. Because you know he's coming. And that's why he's so good to watch. Because he's coming. And he's coming from the first bell. But what he does is he starts quite slow, Beterbiev. But just little things, his feet, like, he's so much more than just this monster. Do you know what I mean? But he will do things that will allow you to do things, to make mistakes down the line or in a couple of rounds. Do you know what I mean? And I think, but Dimitri don't make those mistakes. That's the difference. There's only one fighter in the world that can beat Artur Beterbiev. Dimitri Bivol. That's it. And he's got to do it on Saturday night.
I know you don't want to look beyond Saturday night, but as I just asked Frank, I'm going to bring it to yourself. Canelo's comments pre-Edgar Berlanga about potentially running it back with Dimitri Bivol. Do you think there's maybe more legs in it now, especially if he was to be successful on Saturday?
I think that Canelo would fight anybody. So he would want to rematch Dimitri Bivol because it's very important to him to avenge that defeat. I think Eddie Reynoso knows boxing extremely well, knows that that was quite a straightforward victory for Dimitri Bivol. But the carrot of an undisputed championship at 175 might make that different. And the money. So I think that Dimitri wins on Saturday. God, he's got some huge, huge opportunities. And, it's anyone's fight.
I was about to say, but arguably, again, if he's victorious, Bivol Canelo 2, would you see that as the biggest fight in boxing then?
One of. I just can't wait. You're going to watch a lot of interviews where I talk about that ticking time bomb, and it's such a good analogy of this fight. You just got to slow that clock down. What you cannot afford is 3 or 4 rounds in, you're marked up, you're getting pushed back, you're getting dominated against the ropes. Then that time is already round there. Those first 4 or 5 rounds are so important because he's coming.
Eddie, some other fighters of yours on this card, Opetaia, Jack Massey.
Yeah.
A lot of people see this again as another straightforward fight.
I disagree. Yeah, I actually think this is a good fight. I think Jack Massey's earned his respect. He beat Isaac Chamberlain. Don't forget he went the distance with Joseph Parker. He's fought Riakporhe. I think he's a very tough, strong man. The danger for Jai is just maybe being focused on what's coming, what you really want in your heart, which is unification fights. But for me, this is a late stoppage win for Jai Opetaia against a very game Jack Massey. But let's also remember, this is a British fighter that is fighting for the world title and the Ring Magazine Championship against the best cruiserweight in the world. He won't roll over. I think it'll be a good fight.
Are there any guarantees of what's next for Jai? As you mentioned, those world
In our
titles?
meetings 2 weeks ago with His Excellency, it was, let's become undisputed and let's move up to heavyweight. So Jai wants to unify, that's the plan, and get through Saturday. And 2025 will hopefully be the year that he wins all the belts in the division.
Eddie, do you finally get one over on Frank on Saturday night?
I hope so. We are a favourite going into Nicolson Chapman, but it's a really good fight. We said before, again, when you talk about fighters' feet and their skills, the amount of fighters that have gone, or trainers that have gone, all you got to do against Skye Nicolson is just walk her down and beat her up. They also forget that she had, 140 amateur fights all around the world. And everyone that's tried to beat her up or walk her down has lost every round. It's not just that easy. You're going to get pinged everywhere. But Raven's also got a style that's going to make the fight really entertaining, I think. And that's the fight. Firstly, it's so good for women's boxing that there's a fight on Riyadh season. It's the first one because every facet of boxing has benefited from Riyadh season apart from women's boxing. And now that's changing on Saturday. And victory on Saturday will give the winner that new place among the... Obviously, Katie Taylor sits high, but, the Mayers and the Estradas and the Chantel Camerons and, all the bigger names in boxing. And it's a really, really good fight. I think Skye is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think she could stop her. I really do. I know that the perception is she don't hit that hard. That's not the word coming out of the gyms with Eddie Lamb and the team there. And Raven will be, really up for this fight. And it's going to be a really interesting fight. And we hope that we can stop the Rock because we've got this, then we've got Masood against Liam Davis, and we've just made, I think, one of the best fights in British boxing that will be announced either tonight or tomorrow, which will be another Matchroom v Queensberry fight.
Can you not just let us know that now, Eddie?
I can't because it's not been announced. It's not up to me to announce. But all I know is that myself and George Warren made this fight within 24 hours, and it is so refreshing, this relationship now with Queensberry, because it's so good for British boxing, and I can't wait. McGraw
McCann?
One of the fights being discussed.
Oh, so he's not the one. That's not the one.
We'll see what happens. But that for me, McGraw McCann is it's just one of the best fights in British boxing. Two incredible young fighters, and definitely one that's in the works.
Just sticking with the theme of potentially matching up with Frank and these 5 versus 5s, where do we sit in terms of the next potential 5 versus 5?
The plan is to potentially look at that 5v5 in February. One of the decisions that has to be made coming up is AJ against Dubois rematch. You know, once His Excellency says, I want to know, do you want to do that fight? We're going to have to make a decision then or within 24 hours, because that's how it will work. And then we'll see what's next for the show in February.
Dubois-Joshua rematch, Eddie. What's the latest?
You know, it's been a few weeks now. I think AJ will make the final decision. All he wants is to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. He feels he can beat Dubois. We know that in some people's eyes that's a risky fight to take. It is a risky fight to take. But he's not really interested in having a comeback fight or fighting Dillian Whyte or Wilder or I don't know. He just thinks, I've got a straight shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. And those shots are hard to come by. So we shall see.
I have to ask Eddie, and you mentioned it earlier, how after the first Usyk fight, a lot of people saying all he has to do is this to amend what went wrong in the first fight, and he never quite was able to. Would you look at this now stylistically and say this is a more difficult fight for him to right the wrongs of? Because with Usyk, as you mentioned, everyone was talking about what he had to do. Ruiz the same, but with this, everybody's written him off going into the rematch.
This is actually a straightforward fight in terms of tactics to right the wrongs, but a dangerous fight because of what happened in the first fight. The Usyk puzzle, that's a really difficult rematch to go into. Like, he got pinged everywhere in the first fight. The second fight, done a good job, made it much closer, but Usyk's championship rounds performance was incredible. We can beat Dubois, 100%, but you've got to get it right. But we know exactly what to do. And even in the Usyk rematch, I don't think you could say we knew exactly what to do. Like, you can say, yeah, try this, do that. But Usyk's a puzzle that's so difficult to solve. Dubois is just big and strong and dangerous. But we know exactly how to beat him. And you've got to get it right. And if he gets it right, he'll beat him. And he'll become world heavyweight champion. If he don't, he'll get beat again. But I don't think AJ will be able to turn down the opportunity to win the world heavyweight championship in February. Because that's the thing that drives him.
Is it a surprise to you, Eddie, when you see, I've done numerous interviews with pundits, boxers, whoever it may be within the sport, basically everybody's written him off before getting him a ring for a potential rematch. Is it a surprise to you that nobody sees, there is a route to success for him, obviously, but nobody's giving him a chance of that route to success in a rematch?
I think some will. I think he'll be an outsider in the fight. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter what people think. You know, if you allow yourself to be influenced by what people think, you'd never do anything in life, would you? Because everybody wants to, don't do that, mate. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, are you sure you want to do that? Well, that's a waste of time. Because that's just the feeling. But I'll be honest, after the fight, my initial reaction was, chill out, maybe wait for Fury Usyk, see what happens. Then you start speaking to AJ. Then, particularly, right, he wants to get back in the gym. He doesn't want to be out for a year, 10 months, 11 months. It's really not going to be good for him at this stage in his career. So then he wants to fight in February, March. Okay, so what are the options? What are the options guaranteed right now? Daniel Dubois shot the world heavyweight title. Do you want to fight, I don't know, Deontay Wilder, Dillian Whyte, maybe have 2 or 3? He's like, 2 or 3? What, when I can fight Dubois for the world heavyweight title? No thanks. I get it. Do you know what I mean? So, again, no decision yet, but it will be very difficult to change his mind. But we've got to make the decision in the best interest of him, and when that time comes, we shall do so.
One final thing on it all, Eddie, and going back to the night, I'm sure you saw the clip of Shane McGuigan doing the commentary of that 5th round and how it all unfolded and how he basically got his spot on. Do you think that kind of breakdown from Shane as to how he saw the fight unfolding, if he followed through with Ben's plans, has kind of put a dark spin, if you will, on Ben as a coach and on what went wrong in that corner?
Yeah, everyone's got their opinion. Firstly, when you throw an uppercut, you know, Ben's instructions might be to set it up with a jab, which it would have been, not to wing it in from the hips with your left hand by your side. You know, you protect the shot from the right hand and you set it up with a jab. But he didn't do any of that because he just wasn't in the right headspace to do it. You know, when you've got a fighter that's been completely out of the fight and all of a sudden summons the will and the tank to potentially still cause damage to the opponent. When you get him hurt, what you don't want to do is go for another 3 or 4 rounds, being defensive, getting caught. You've got to, again, these people know AJ inside out. So Shane's a great trainer, and I think analytically maybe that was the right thing to do. But in the heat of the moment, when you're looking in the fighter's eyes and you know what he's got left, they felt that Dubois was starting to fade, and now was the chance. When you've still got what you've got in terms of tank, if you get the chance, roll the dice. It's very interesting. But AJ's very happy. Training camp went great. We believe they can come up with a plan to win the rematch.
I'm sure you've seen Tyson Fury's comments as well, Eddie. Is that music to your ears for him saying that he's adamant it will happen?
The thing is about that fight is it will always be there. But if everybody keeps losing, it just won't be as big. And if it's not as big, the money won't be great. And if the money's not great, Fury probably don't take it. So, I think that fight will happen at some point in 2025. But the focus is the next decision that we have to make.
2 years today, Eddie. Do you know what was meant to be?
Yeah, I heard earlier, yeah.
How would you reflect on this past 2 years as we arrive on what should have been the anniversary of a fight?
Tough times make strong men. That's the way I see it for me personally. It was a fucking horrible experience, really, because I felt very disappointed that all of the flack for that fight came to me, when we were reliant on regulatory bodies making decisions within contractual positions that, I say, let us down, but allowed a process to become worse and worse, when there was an easier decision to make many, many weeks before that wouldn't have cost us £1 million in costs. Do you know what I mean? But those kind of experiences and putting yourself in uncomfortable positions will improve you as an operator, will give you valuable experience, and will put you in better stead for the future when similar positions arrives. And I just look at it as a learning curve, really. It was tough year, really. It's still going, but it's not really talked about that much anymore. But when I look back, I never look back on those things and go, oh, I look back and go, fucking hell, that was hard going. But I know what it did for me personally, and it made me better at my job, made me more resilient. But I stood by my belief, and my belief is that Conor Benn did not cheat, and I didn't have to stand by him, but I did because I believed him, and I had multiple opportunities to look him in the eye, get the full story, and make my own personal decision. And I stood by that decision. I never faltered. I never backed down. I never stopped backing him. I never looked for the easy way out. I always had his back, and that will be rewarded. And when he comes back and his moment comes, it will be very sweet.
I have to ask on that note, Eddie, did his interview with Tony Sims over Zoom recently at the end of September, he said at the end of that month he was hopeful of an announcement of the appeal process. What can you tell me?
It's ongoing, it's imminent, and that's all I think I should say at the moment, which is Conor Benn will be back fighting very soon in the UK, I believe, and we'll wait for a confirmed date as to when that's possible.
And just a couple to end on. Oscar De La Hoya, what is going on between you and Oscar?
It's great for me. I mean, look, I think Oscar's one of those guys that when he sees you, he'll cuddle you and give you that face, but deep down he's got this real inner anger burning inside him, and I don't know what makes him so unhappy. Like, he's one of the greatest fighters of our generation. He's got a great life, but it's just something that burns him inside. And I'll retweet it. Like, for me, don't forget, I'm trying to build myself in the US. So you've got this guy, he's like a household name, talking about me non-stop, making videos about me. I'm reposting them. Do you know what I mean? But if I do one, he gets really offended. So, I don't know. Like everybody, I hope he can just find happiness.
I had an interesting couple of conversations recently with Leigh Wood and Josh Warrington, and we've done interviews recently where we spoke about kind of the criticisms of UK shows. why maybe have those names not been explored a little more? I know Leigh was out for a brief period with injury and illness and what have you, but he's back. And they're somewhat of a free win, if you will, because they're entertaining fighters always. They'll pack out arenas. Are these the types of guys who you would look moving forwards to get back in quickly to appease maybe some of those
No,
fans?
not necessarily. I mean, it all comes down to the numbers. I mean, you know, if you use Leigh as an example, we paid Leigh fortunes. And when we did the Warrington Wood fight, financially, the show didn't work for us, right? Now, that's fine. We don't have to make money on every show. But then when Leigh Wood wins and thinks that the rematch is worth more money next time and vacates his title, so it's no longer for a world championship fight, and Josh Warrington's coming off a defeat, and everybody thinks that this fight is so much bigger, and they all want more, and we know that if I paid the same money as before, we'd still lose money. Do you know what I mean? So that's just the point where you have to go back to the fighter and say, look, we want to do the rematch, but the money, you know, I think he was either offered the same money or just under to do the rematch, and he didn't want to do it, which is, that's fine, it's his prerogative, but I've always paid Leigh. You know, the mad thing is, when I look at the Conlon fight, the Lara fight, we're losing a significant amount of money on Leigh Wood. And the model shouldn't be like that, because he's a great ticket seller. He's really entertaining. But you know, and just as a business, you just can't keep doing that. And I know it's difficult for fight fans to understand, because in their mind, you should just pay the money and make the fight. But you can't operate as a business like that, because you'd have no business. So I don't mind losing money, but I can't just keep on doing it. And that's when you know, the market has to change a little bit to make certain fights. Maybe we make that fight now. You know, it's a loser goes home kind of fight. But it's got to be financially right. And you can't just say, well, that sells out the MEN. And it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? And then you're left holding the bill. So that's just me being completely truthful. And I love Leigh Wood. Like, he's one of the great success stories. And I'm very happy that he's made an absolute fortune. He deserves it all. But it doesn't mean that we just go, yeah, we'll do that again, and we'll do 400 or 500 grand on the show. Sweet. So it's not the business. So hopefully, and that's the problem now with a lot of those guys. They're going to have to realise they might have to fight for less than they want. And then sometimes they don't want to. So you either want to fight or you just want the money. And if you just want the money, you may not end up fighting again.
Eddie, I appreciate your time as always.
Cheers, mate.
One day closer to return to the Railway Inn.
Yes. See you soon.